Sounds like it's probably not the- yeah.
We got a minute. No, there we go. Okay, folks.
How big will he get?
Ready, Tracy? Good evening, everyone. This is the regular monthly meeting of the Municipality of County of Colchester Council. And May 28th, 26th. And I'll ask our CAO for roll call, please.
Thank you very much. So we start with the chair, Mayor Blair,
Present.
Councillor Weatherby,
Present.
Councillor Deputy Mayor Sanderson, Councillor Richardson,
Present.
Councillor Cooper,
Present.
Councillor Johnson,
Present.
Councillor Leggett, Councillor Martell,
Present.
Councillor Patton,
Present.
Councillor Benoit,
Present.
Councillor Fletcher,
Present.
Councillor Kennedy. Present. You have quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And peace and friendship and in the spirit of truth and reconciliation, I recognize that the Municipality of Colchester is in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq. The first item is, before we approve our agenda, is the appointment of our municipal solicitor. You have that document in front of you, Council, and you have had an opportunity to read it, and I'm prepared to entertain a motion. Councillor Cooper.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Blair. I would like to move the council waives policy and appoints Patterson Law as the municipality's solicitor for fiscal year 2026-27.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor Sanderson. A discussion on the motion.
Question.
The question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary. One nay, Councillor Martell. The motion carries. The next item on the agenda. We'll ask our solicitor to return.
He left the building. He wasn't expected to.
Message.
Right? The item that before us is a public hearing. And it concerns the amendments to the Colchester land use bylaw for lands owned by Angel Adams, PID 2004571, to rural industrial from rural general to allow for a salvage yard. There is a recommendation by staff to adopt this zoning map amendment, and the proposed amendment and a related staff report have been circulated to council members and have been made available to the public. Mr. Clerk, have the guidelines of the Municipal Government Act regarding advertising of the first and second readings and the public hearing been followed?
Yes, they have.
Thank you. Councillors, you are reminded that only those councillors present throughout the public hearing can vote on approval of the amendment when it is eventually considered by council. That this public hearing is council's opportunity to hear the amendment and any concerns of Colchester County residents. Individual councillors will have an opportunity to debate the merits of the amendment when the motion is presented to council. And that staff are present at this hearing to answer any technical questions that may arise because of the public's input. And I will now ask the applicants to come forward to introduce themselves and speak to their application. Just that, please.
I'm
Evening.
Scott Hill, this is Angel Adams.
Just turn.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I'll start again, guys, sorry.
Okay, please have a seat and proceed.
Okay, I'm Scott Hill, this is Angel Adams. We've been recycling for better part of 25 years. Work with the communities, buying up old vehicles and stuff. Now I deal with the auctions from here to PEI, New Brunswick, Newfoundland. we're taking care of the cars that nobody wants to deal with, the mess in people's yards. Like I used to do yard work and stuff, but we concentrate on the auctions because it's a very busy thing. They do retire your bride and let's clean up people's yard programs like everywhere. And they rely on me to get rid of these cars, and usually I wouldn't need an area this big, but we got caught up with the steel markets crashing and stuff, and well, we just kind of wrote it out. County and stuff's been awesome with us, helping us get through all this. Now we're in a position where we're moving cars, everything's getting cleaned up again. We're still working with the community, we still run all of our ads, like to pick up old cars and stuff, because I don't like seeing that side road, I know nobody else does, so it's good for the community too, right? We want to be a long-standing part of the community with that stuff, so we hope everything goes well tonight, and everybody needs any questions, concerns, we gladly meet them, no matter what it is, right?
Thank you very much. Councillors, does anyone have any questions of Mr. Hill? Or Ms. Adams? No. I see no questions. Thank you. You may have a seat, and I will now ask our staff to introduce the proposed zoning map amendment. Our manager of planning, Pam McIntosh. Pam, please.
Right, I'm just going to share my presentation. So this is a rezoning application. The owner of the property is Ms. Adams, who you just met, and the applicant is Mr. Hill. And this property is located out in Greenfield in our rural general zone. And Tracy is handing out some 11 by 17 maps of the actual site plan. It's sometimes hard to see on the screen. So their request is to rezone a portion of their property, about 10 acres, from rural general to rural industrial. Overall, the property is about 100 acres in size. And it's found along Union Road number 2. And I will point out the report that you received, this bottom quadrant of the property down here, see my cursor, was inadvertently left out of what you have in your report. What happens is when properties are severed by roads, unless you go in and physically grab each one, it will get missed. So apologies for that. What you see on the screen is a true reflection of their property. So there's a lot of forestry and aggregate related uses in the area. The Cape Breton and Central Nova Scotia Railway runs behind the property, and the Salmon River is over here on the other side of the tracks. And again, this is for a land use bylaw map amendment to rezone this 10-acre portion, as you can see outlined in yellow, from the 100-acre portion. So this would become rural industrial, where the salvage yard is located now. And the staff have been working closely with both the applicants and Nova Scotia Department of Environment. Because of the size of this salvage yard now, they do have to meet provincial requirements. So we've had a few meetings with Environment, and I think we're all on the same page, hopefully moving this application forward. I have a few photographs of the site. So this is the warehouse that's on the property. This is the office building over here. And part of the requirements that we have is that a berm be established around the perimeter, fencing or a berm. So the berm has been established. Just another shot of the yard itself. And over here is the fence on the entranceway in off of Union 2 Road. And again, this is a site plan that you have in front of you. So you can see the warehouse, the red warehouse is here, the office trailer is here, and the cars are located around here, and the berm perimeter goes around this property. The existing house and outbuildings will not form part of this rezoning. They are staying as rural general. So in our planning strategy, there are policies which enable this type of application to move forward. I won't go through them piece by piece, but just be reassured that this application is correctly for you tonight. And as we always do with these types of applications, we go out to external offices and internally. So Provincial Public Works were consulted and they reviewed the proposal and found it acceptable. As I stated before, environment staff have been working with us and the applicants to make sure that their requirements will be met. One of their requirements is that this business have municipal approval. Our own Municipal Public Works have reviewed the application and are satisfied as presented. Our development officers have confirmed that the proposal will meet the land use bylaw requirements. So that's most importantly, the berming and fencing. Municipal building inspector will ensure that any of the buildings associated with the business have met all building code requirements. And we also went to the Salmon River Fire Brigade and they reviewed the application and state that they see minimal risk and have enough resources available for most situations. And in closing, the staff recommendation is that we recommend that this be approved as presented. And like I said, we feel it satisfies all policy and associated criteria. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pam. Does anyone have any questions of our manager? I see no hand. Oh,
Yeah,
Councillor Kennedy.
Madam Chair, I just have one question and maybe I should have asked Scott. How long are the vehicles on the property?
Going for a 90-day program. We're already moved.
Excuse me,
I'll get.
Pam?
Come on.
That's why we took them up store, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
you just have a seat. Yeah, you're good there.
We're going for the 90-day program. Like I got a lot of catching up to do. Like I've got probably 1,200 cars on the yard, but we've already moved since I've been here last 280 vehicles. So we're gonna get this cleaned up that it's accessible, right? Like a lot of the cars I wanna save, it's gonna be like for doors, fenders, cheap parts for people, nothing fluid related. It's gonna be removed, right? We send them all down, but eventually it's gonna be, when they come in, a 90-day clock essentially starts and we get what we need off the car and keep it moving because I don't wanna drown in cars again. Like it's gonna keep coming and coming, right?
Not a graveyard for cars.
Exactly. I don't wanna do like an auto salvage. I just wanna do more or less. Let's get some parts off quick, send them back.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Any other questions, anyone? For our manager, Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask, I guess maybe I should have asked Scott as well, about the fluid you just mentioned. So what do you do with?
That's good. I like Ansley stuff. I don't deal with the fluids in particular. What the company I deal with is AIM Metals and I sell to them in Halifax and they do all the deep fluiding. That's why I want the 90-day program. So there's zero risk for us, right? I don't buy smashed vehicles, but with smashed vehicles comes opportunity for leaking fluids. I don't want nothing to do with that either, right? So we kind of stay away from that stuff. We deal cars, we bring them in, I pull the converter, the battery, the tires, send them off to their final resting place, which is Halifax. They have machines very specific to draining. They're just too expensive for me to have, right? So they take care of all the deep pollution, oils, all of that stuff.
Okay, thank you.
I'll wait.
Might as well stay.
I think that's a good idea. Any further questions, council? I see no hands, so thank you, Scott, again. And Pam, thank you. Will the chair of the Planning Advisory Committee please present the report from the April 22, 2026 meeting? Councillor Johnson, please.
I will, thank you, Mayor. The committee reviewed an application by Scott Hill of Import Haven Auto Services to amend the Colchester land use bylaw to rezone a 10-acre portion of the property located at 803 Union Number 2 Road in Greenfield, PAD number 200456761 from rural general to rural industrial for salvage The applicant provided an overview of proposal and the vision for his business. Pam McIntosh provided an overview of proposal, including the properties designated R rural, designated R rural and zoned RG rural general. The request for rezoning is for a 10-acre portion of a 100-acre property to be used as a salvage yard. The remaining acreage will stay as rural general. Staff and the applicant have been working with the natural environment staff to satisfy all required regulations. McIntosh provided a review of relevant planning policies as well as comments from internal staff and external agencies. There were questions from PAC members and answers were provided by staff and the applicant. The committee recommended that the council give first reading to the proposed rezoning and authorize the second reading and a public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Mr. Clerk, have any written submissions been received?
No, Madam Chair, no written submissions have been received.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public present who wish to address council concerning the proposed amendment? I see no one coming forward. Does staff want to respond to anything further? Thank you. Is the chair of the Planning Advisory Committee prepared to place a motion on the floor? Councillor Johnson.
Yes, I am there. I move the council approve by way of second reading the request to rezone a portion of PID 200457761 to rural industrial to allow for a salvage yard at 803 Union number 2 Road in Greenfield.
And do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Richardson. Any discussion on the motion?
Question?
The question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The motion is carried. The approval of the land use bylaw zoning map amendment by council is appealable to the Nova Scotia Regulatory and Appeals Board. Any appeal of council's decision must be made within 14 days of the advertising of this decision. That now concludes this public hearing.
Guys, we appreciate it.
You too. The next item is a public hearing on the administrative amendments to the Municipality of Colchester Municipal Planning Strategy and Land Use Bylaw. I call this public hearing to order respecting the administrative amendments to the Municipality of Colchester Municipal Planning Strategy and Land Use Bylaw. There is a recommendation by staff to adopt these amendments. The proposed administrative amendments to the planning documents and a related staff report have been circulated to council members and have been made available to the public. Mr. Clerk, have the guidelines of the Municipal Government Act regarding advertising of the first and second readings and public hearing been followed?
Yes, Madam Chair, they have.
Thank you. Councillors, once again, you are reminded that only those councillors present throughout the public hearing can vote on the administrative amendments to the planning documents when they are eventually considered by council. That this public hearing is council's opportunity to hear the amendments to the planning documents and any concerns of Colchester County residents. Individual councillors will have an opportunity to debate the merits of the amendments when the motion is presented to council. And that staff are present at this hearing to answer any technical questions that may arise because of the public's input. I would now ask staff to introduce the administrative amendments to the Municipal Planning Strategy and Land Use Bylaw. And once again, our Manager of Planning, Pam McIntosh. Pam, please.
Just gonna share. What I've done, because I know, oops.
I know the staff report that you received is could be a little overwhelming. So what I've done is, for the purposes of tonight, I created a list A document, which is which is the policy amendments and accompanying land use bylaw amendments, and list just the land use bylaw amendments. So I'm gonna focus right now on list A, which are proposed amendments to both text amendments to our municipal planning strategy and some map amendments to our future land use mapping documents. So I will, and certainly if you have any questions as I go along, please ask them. Get my giant book organized here. The first one is on, and this is on the cluster development in our municipal planning strategy. And we have in talking with a lot of developers, there has been some confusion about what the premise of cluster development is, especially in low density residential zones. It was never intended to allow you know, a huge amount of homes or units to go on a small piece of land. And unfortunately, that's what we've been finding recently since this came into place. And when you read the preamble in the municipal planning strategy, it's quite clear, as it was in our previous document, that the cluster development was meant to cluster housing around like a golf course or you know, environmental preserve or something like that. It was never intended to allow a lot of dwelling units on a small piece of land. So staff are proposing that that one change is that we require a minimum of 10 acres to do our cluster developments. And the second change is the percentage of open space that is to be retained, because there are policy statements in the MPS that require a percentage of open space. It has been 40, and we originally proposed 75%, but in talking to some of our bigger developers who are interested in cluster, they felt 75 was a little heavy, so 60%, leaving 60% of the land as open space worked better for them. And these are the people that we've talked to who are interested in cluster. One of them is looking at having like an environmental preserve. So they had quite a large piece of land that had some wetlands and a couple of quite large ponds on it. So they were hoping to integrate their housing around those. Another person is looking at quite a range of uses on their land, everything from a small 9-hole golf course to an equestrian facility. So those are the types of discussions that we're having with developers. So having a minimum of 10 acres plus requiring 60% open space seems to be a formula that will satisfy both our policies and the interest that we're seeing from the development community. So that is the first of 3 text amendments to the planning strategy. The second one is rezoning on abutting lands. Again, in our previous bylaw, we always had a policy that said if you have a tract of land that's zoned one way and you abut another parcel that's zoned a different way, there was always the ability to consider changing the zoning to what the property beside you is. And we haven't done that a lot, but over the last 20 some years, we have used that provision a few times. What the 2025 plan brought in was a cap on how much land that you could ask to be rezoned, and we're recommending that there be no cap. Certainly, again, what we're seeing from the community the questions that we've had since June of 2025 suggest to us that having a cap is really not a good idea. The third text amendment is requiring a site plan approval in our highway commercial zone. And once we started looking at the policies versus what our land use bylaw required, they were already meeting what they needed to through the land use requirements, and the site plan appeared to be just an additional burden and cause more time delay. So it just seemed redundant to make businesses in our highway commercial zone go through a site plan. So those were the three text amendments. And I'll just scroll down. And what we've done here is just, again, for ease of understanding, I've moved all the maps right under each suggested amendment. So we can go through these. Again, the content of your staff report is all contained in both list A and list B. It's just reorganized a bit more efficiently, I think. So, and I should say that the majority of these amendments, both to the future land use maps and to the land use bylaw and land use bylaw maps, the majority are like typos or omissions. So no real big change in policy direction, just there was a misnumbering of sections or that type of thing. And so what we did here for each future land use map, we went through and looked for any errors or omissions. So this first number 1 is the future land use map for Bible Hill Valley. And this is the elementary school, the new elementary school on Pictou Road. So unfortunately, in the MPS, it got captured as residential, not institutional. And this on Vimy Road is the Shanix, the care facility. Same thing got considered as residential, not institutional. And the Northumberland Land Marketing Co-op, it got lumped in with the Five Corners CDD, and it should be noted as residential. It's an existing non-conforming use, and it's been that way for decades. When they did their upgrading in 2012, they were in agreement that if they do want to expand, they need to relocate. So we were able to accommodate their upgrading to the federal standards they needed, but they realized there's limitations with that property, and like I said, it's been considered non-conforming for decades. So we want to remain that consistency. And we're back on Main Street, and these after talking to some of the residents and based on phone calls that we've received from residents that were hoping to do like a second unit in their house or put an accessory smaller dwelling in their backyard, we realized that these areas, like this is Albert and Windsor in here, and they've been zoned commercial again for decades, but we've seen no commercial activity in there. There was a commercial building here, but it's now been turned into housing units. So and again, you know, with the interest, especially with, you know, backyard suites and that type of thing, we've noticed an increase in calls from people in those areas. And unfortunately, because they're zoned commercial, they can't build a second dwelling. So we're proposing that this area here to be considered residential. And then the same down here, this is the upper end of Lloyd Court. There's a couple businesses right that face on Main Street. But the same situation down here on Lloyd Court and on these ones here, if you've been down Main Street, you'll notice that there's been a few of those older buildings that have been retrofitted. And then we've met a few times with the owners of these properties here, and they would prefer to see their properties as residential. So that's the future land use map, and we pulled the land use bylaw map over into this document so you can see what I'm talking about. So here around Albert and Windsor, they become residential. This clump here, the multi-units that have been retrofitted, plus the Hingley's properties here would go as R4 because of the density that exists with the Mr. Blinkhorn's properties. And then the end of Lloyd Court would be R3 in there. So that's Main Street. Now, a similar situation up on Pictou Road. For those of you who remember the Cooper landscaping business, this was all their property here. It's owned by three different people now, and all three are interested in doing higher density residential development there. And with the commercial zoning, they have to provide, the way our plan reads, they have to provide 50% of the ground floor as commercial space. And then they can go up with residential, but it's becoming a difficult I don't want to say difficult situation for them to find to attract a commercial business that would want to go in there. And I know they're all looking at doing multiple apartment buildings. And the way the bylaw reads right now is you'd have to have 50% commercial in every building, which for them became a frustrating situation. So after meeting with and having some input from these people, we're recommending that all this become medium to high density residential. So again, the concurrent land use bylaw map would see it going from commercial to high density residential here. And these are the Eisner apartment buildings, just to help orient you, and back off of Village Court. And then lands up on Pictou Road in East Mountain, just past the highway interchange. These ones here have been historically commercial for decades, zone commercial. The uses have remained residential. This property here is where there's 3 multiple unit buildings, and they're actually in the process of going through the condominium corporation to be able to sell the units off. And a similar situation as to off of Main Street, we've had calls from some property owners that are again interested in putting a second dwelling on their property, and commercial designation just won't let them do that. So we're proposing that they become a residential. And here's the concurrent land use map, which would show them going from commercial to residential. This is the future land use map for Brookfield. And most of these were just oversights. This is the fire hall that should have been institutionally designated, not residential. This is, let me go back up. Yeah, the sportsplex. Let me get my notes here. Yeah, the next one is the sportsplex. And then the ball field and the two schools. And so those should all have been institutional, not residential. And the wetland trail was zoned rural and it should have been park space. And the Brookfield Golf Course again was zoned or designated as rural and it should have been commercial parks and open space. And I know I'm jumping around the county here, but in no particular order. The next future land use map is Debert, and a similar situation, Shanx was designated a combination of residential and rural, and it should all be institutional. And the 6 new homes that went in by the Shaw Group on Dieppe Avenue were shown as park, but they should be residential. And now we're in North River. There's a few in this area. Again, the school should have been institutional, the elementary school. And then 2 long established subdivisions, both of which are on central sewer, were designated rural when they should have been residential. And the lands that we recently acquired along Dixon from the Norrie family, we needed to identify them. So these yellow ones are the 4 pieces that we acquired last fall from the Norries. And now we're in Onslow, and the parkland, this is the new Summerhill Place off of Matlin, and we've acquired some park land here. So we need to update our MPS mapping accordingly, and the same again with our land use bylaw mapping. So these need to be designated as park. And a similar situation along Sunrise Court. There were 2 tracts of land that we own as parkland that weren't recognized. And again, we've brought the land use bylaw and map in to reflect that as well. And now we'll go to Salmon River. And there were 2 properties that were designated institutional, but both should be medium to high density residential. So this is the Meach multiple unit off of Maple Lane, off of Harmony Road. So going from institutional to residential. And this is the former Salmon River school site, going again from institutional to residential. And in Tatamagouche, again, a similar situation with a lot of the institutional uses that were incorrectly designated. So the first one is the hospital site here. The second one is our library here and the little monument that's on the corner. And the next one is the school, the regional school. And down here, this is all rec center land. And this is our water plant out on Cooper Road. And the Tatamagouche Cemetery here and the fire hall here. So again, this is these amendments just reflect what's actually on the ground. And then this this is Creamery Square down here. And this land, which is owned by the province, some commercial designations got inadvertently added in here. So this amendment will clean up what the province owns versus what is privately owned. And Campbell's Shipyard Marina, which the village owns, again, that should be park, not residential. And a concurrent amendment to the land use bylaw maps. And finally, Creamery Square, again, residential, and it should definitely be institutional. And the daycare along Blair Avenue, that was rezoned a couple of years ago to institutional, needed to be brought into the right designation. And again, the concurrent land use bylaw map to reflect that it should be institutional. And then out near the Brill Shore, the Sunrise Shore Marina, which is here, which is needed to be designated as parks and open space. And the concurrent land use bylaw map amendment has it here as a commercial park space. And in Churro Heights, our wastewater plant needed to go from rural to institutional. And the same concurrent with our land use bylaw map, going from AP to institutional. Oh, sorry, did I say water? Yeah, it's wastewater. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. The future land use map is for Churro Heights / Lower Churro. So sorry about that. Should have Lower Churro there. Yeah. And along Churro Heights Road, there was some errors that we found. The CDD over here at the former golf course didn't get captured. There's a convenience store takeout here that's zoned commercial that didn't get captured. And we had rezoned some lands up here on Churro Heights Road to reflect a long-standing use, and that didn't transfer well. So this is what the actual designation should be on this property and nothing on this property. And a couple parcels on, or one parcel off of Oakwood Drive coming down off of Parkwood South. Somehow this piece here became higher density residential when it needed to be low density. So that those got changed again on both the MPS and the LUD mapping. And we're almost to the end, but the future land use map for Hilden, we found right along Highway 2. This is Avalon Avenue, the subdivision. Right along Highway 2, we found 3 properties that were designated rural when 2 of them should have been commercial and the third one up here residential. So this, again, the planning strategy maps, and then again, reflected properly on the land use bylaw map. So that's it for list A for amendments to the planning strategy, to the policy document, and any concurrent land use bylaw ones that need to go with that. So are there any questions?
Any questions of Pam? Councillor? Councillor Benoit.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Pam.
Mhm.
Sorry, I just wanted to check back when you were talking about the Cooper's property there. You had mentioned that one was or I can't remember, but was some of that, it is now residential, it was commercial and is now residential?
It's currently all commercial,
Okay,
but the recommendation is that it all become residential.
okay.
Yeah.
And that's because it's the need of it or?
Well, there's interest from the property owners in developing, higher density residential.
Okay,
And they'd like to, it's not, it has turned out that it's not efficient for them to have 50% of the first floor of every apartment building be a commercial use.
okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I know most of them that you've just talked about, are just corrections to what's already there, but. And I could be wrong, but I feel like there was a couple before that you had talked about that were potentially something and now turning to residential. Was that correct? I'm trying to find it. I guess
Do you mean like
Pick the road.
the
Yeah.
Pictou Road?
yeah, it was up in that area. There was one that you had talked about that was mainly gonna be residential now. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Can you
Yeah.
tell me which one that is?
yeah,
or-
there was section, 2 sections along Main Street.
Okay,
Yeah, and in and around Albert Avenue and Windsor.
right.
Those properties, not the ones that front on Main Street, but the
Mhm.
ones in behind.
Right,
And similarly along Lloyd Court.
okay. Oh, here we
There's a
go.
tack shop when you turn in there, so everything kind of beyond the tack shop would become residential.
Okay,
And then along Main Street itself, those 3 buildings that Dylan Blinkhorn retrofitted, the 3 multiple units,
right.
those properties, plus the Hingley properties beside there. They probably own about 5 or 6 individual properties.
Mhm.
They are interested in having those as residential.
Okay, so I guess my question, if I may ask, is did they have to apply for that rezoning or we're just changing it in these land use bylaws?
No, this has just come through phone calls and discussions on future plans, so.
Okay, I guess the whole reason I'm asking this is because, and it could be completely different, but we went through a very big discussion the last couple of years trying to change something from commercial to residential. And there was a lot of discussion and we were not able to do that. And now I feel like we're able to do that now with these locations quite easily. So I guess that's just kind of my point, but thank you.
Councillor Leggett.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through to you to Pam. Question I have, so if a property is now commercial or residential and it goes, flip-flops one way or the other, the debate we first had when we were new on council was the church on Pictou Road that went from institutional to high density residential, then it got reverted back to institutional again. So if a landowner that is now commercial and it goes to residential, if a future landowner or whoever wishes to go back to commercial, we have to come through PAC to have that rezoned again back to commercial.
Yeah, that would be the process they'd have to follow.
Although it's already been zoned commercial once.
Yeah,
Because I find that odd about the church. It was institutional, we rezoned it, put it back to what it was, but it had to go through a whole process to get it back to where it already was. I guess is,
and that was really a one-off situation. We've not run into that before.
okay, all
Yeah.
right, thanks, thank you.
Any further questions?
I just,
Councillor Kennedy.
through you, Madam Chair, I just have a clarification on rezoning on abutting lands.
Okay.
And you have 1.23 acres to rezone.
Mhm. So,
Is that dead land in between or is that usable land? The 1.23.
well, that would, say I had let me think of a good example. you know, if I had a piece of land that, that abutted, I had a piece of residential land that abutted, that was zoned like R2. And it was a large tract of land and it abutted a property a property that was zoned like R4 for higher density development. Then, that, as it's written right now, if my land was any bigger than 1.23 acres, I couldn't apply to have my property rezoned to use for a higher development, residential development, so. And the calls that we've been getting, when we've looked at this policy, the calls that we've been getting, you know, the people are interested in tracts of land that are bigger than 1.23 acres, so.
So a residential lot wouldn't need not apply.
No, yeah.
Thank you.
Any further questions? I see no lights on.
Sorry, Madam Chair, I have a list B to go through too.
Okay, please
Yeah.
continue.
Yes.
List B.
Nice try.
And this one again, these are amendments to the land use bylaw only. These do not require ministerial approval, unlike the municipal planning strategy ones did. But, these would just go through our normal 2-week. We advertise that it's been approved and people have 2 weeks to appeal to the board. But, and again, they're all contained in your staff report, but, there were, 3 that I wanted to touch on. So I'm going to bring up list B. So again, probably 95% of these are typos, misnumberings, that type of thing. We missed, you know, having a definition included for residential outbuildings. It's a permitted use, so we needed to define it. But the 3 that I wanted to talk about, just let me find, page 4. Yeah. Because I know this was discussed a little bit during first reading, so this was the limit on the number of special occasions that can occur on a property. Right now, there's no cap. Staff are recommending a cap of 4. And the reason, one of the things that our development staff have run into is that, and I'll use the example of yard sales. There are some people that it's gone from 1 or 2 times a year to pretty much every weekend. And we have gotten some calls from the neighbors around these properties, which is understandable. So we, you know, there are policies in place. You know, if rezoning, if they want this to become a commercial business and they can apply to rezone, then that's a pathway for them. Or maybe it's time for them to move to a commercial area and set up their business that way. So that was the impetus behind this particular request. The other, I'm just going to skip to page 8. And then don't worry, I won't go through all 24 pages. Yeah. This one, I need to make a correction on what's before you tonight. And this was, we had recommended inserting a new section identifying collector streets because we couldn't find one in the parking section. And for 20+ years, we've always found our list of collector streets in the parking section in the bylaw. Well, it turns out in this bylaw, Schedule F on page 197. So we did find it. It's a little embarrassing, but it is there. But it does need to be updated. So the list of roads that you see in front of you tonight are accurate. So instead of inserting a new section in the parking section, we would just like to modify this to say that on page 197, Schedule F, we update it to reflect what's written here. So if you have any questions about that, let me. It was an embarrassing moment when we found there was a Schedule F. And the last one I want to touch on specifically, I apologize, it's almost there. Oh, here it is. The municipal flood mapping for the North Shore. When this document was approved last June, the provincial municipal flood mapping data was not available. So there's a policy in here that says when it is available, we are to put it in. So this change to the land use bylaw acknowledges that we now have it, and we can now add it to our flood overlays within the land use bylaw. So those were the three major ones that I wanted to bring to your attention. But certainly I can go through it in the whole document in more detail if you want, or if you have any specific questions from looking at the staff report, I can answer those.
Thank you. Councilors, any questions? Councilor Cooper.
Through you, Pam,
Mhm.
please,
Mhm.
go back to that special occasions. I guess I
Sure. Mhm.
never thought of yard sales as special occasions, but
Yeah.
I understand what you're getting at.
Mhm.
What time frame is that? When you say 4, is that 4
Well, that would be per calendar year.
per calendar year?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Any further questions? Anything further, Pam?
No, thank you.
No? Then will the chair of the Planning Advisory Committee please present the report from the April 22, 2026 meeting? Councillor Johnson, please.
I will. Thank you, Mayor. The committee reviewed and discussed the staff report on administrative amendments to the Colchester Municipal Planning Strategy and Land Use Bylaw led by Pam McIntosh. Since the countywide plan was adopted in June of 2025, staff have been noting any inconsistencies within the documents, which these amendments address. The preliminary review was done at the previous PAC meeting on March the 24th. PAC also discussed the use of shipping containers as accessory buildings in residential zones as instructed by council. There was much debate and discussion on this topic. The committee recommended that the requirements for the land use bylaw remain unchanged and that they not be allowed as accessory buildings in residential zones. Committee recommends that council give first reading to the proposed administrative amendments and authorize a second reading and a public hearing.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Clerk, have any written submissions been received?
No, Madam Mayor, no written submissions have been received.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public present who wish to address council concerning these proposed administrative amendments to the planning documents? I see no one. And then Pam, is there anything further that you need to add, would like to add?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Is the chair of the Planning Advisory Committee prepared to place a motion on the floor? Councillor Johnson, please.
I am, Mayor. I move the council adopts by way of second reading the administrative amendments to the Municipality of Colchester Municipal Planning Strategy and Land Use Bylaws presented tonight.
Thank you. And do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Kennedy. And discussion on the motion. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know if Pam wants to reply to this or not, but when I said earlier that we had a discussion on shipping containers, we did have a discussion on shipping containers. I know it came to council before, and I wanted to add that the Bible Hill Village Commission, we have a representative on the PAC committee, which would be Commissioner Van Kroonenberg. And they had a discussion at one of their sessions there in Bible Hill, and they again put this on the floor and discussed it. And we wanted them to make a decision on what they wanted in the village of Bible Hill. So they come back and they strongly stressed that they wanted no shipping containers or sea cans in the village of Bible Hill. So just to make everybody aware, we're not changing anything here. That's what we had, but we did have this come to us before. So if anybody wants to ask any questions tonight, and Pam gives some answers, then maybe tonight is the question. So when I look around my community, you know, I see several shipping containers, sea cans, truck bodies with God knows what in them. But I guess the question that I had that night is that how do we distinguish residential areas and residential zones? So if I have one on Harmony Road, you know, we call that collector road, so I'm saying that's a residential area. But we're gonna have some policing problems when we go and start policing this around the county in residential zones with shipping containers and sea cans. So I just want to make everybody aware that how are we going to do it? We're not sure, but maybe Pam wants to address it and see where we're going to go with existing containers that are on residential lots that will probably ask to be removed, because this was a contentious debate that night when we were at PAC.
And please.
Yeah, I can speak to that, and I might ask Dennis to jump in too, but, I know right now in Bible Hill, there's one case on, Avon Street that, there was a court process in place which was paused while, this was being discussed. Our development officer had been in touch with another person in Bible Hill, and they were prepared at the time to remove the shipping container. When this request came for further investigation, they were advised by the development officer to pause removal, but they understand that if nothing gets changed, they will be required to move it. In terms of policing, right now, it's been complaint driven. So any responses or requests to remove shipping containers have come through neighbors calling and complaining. Staff have not been driving around noting shipping containers for removal, so don't know if that answers fully what you were wondering, but
Through the mayor to Pam, no, it does, but my question is that if nobody complains, if I have one in my backyard and somebody up the road complains that someone else has one, you know, I guess the question we asked that night, is it a fair process? So should it be complaint driven or should it be policy driven? I guess is the question we're asking. So just because someone complains, it might not be a complaint about the container, it might be a neighbor on neighbor dispute,
Sure.
why the complaint's coming up. And I'm not saying that's the case with the one I have on, but it very well may be, but my point is that it is gonna be hard to police. And we discussed that night, that it would be. So how do we pick and choose who's allowed to have them? And the thing that we spoke of that night is that shipping containers are fairly inexpensive. They're watertight. They'll lock them up very easily and they're hard to break into. They're a lot better than building a shed. Especially if they look fairly decent on the property, you could paint them or put siding on them, and we've even seen people living in them today. So how far are we along? And, you know, I'm not saying that we take another look at this, but I think that a sea can is not strictly just a sea can or a shipping container. There's all kinds of different uses for it. Some people are parking vehicles in it. Some people are putting commercial snowplow in it. Some people are putting salt in it. And some people are just using it for storage. But I just want to bring it up and see what anybody else wants to say. Thank you.
I will speak to them becoming dwellings. Right now, anyone can apply to convert a shipping container into a dwelling. anytime you start cutting openings in our shipping containers, in order to create a dwelling, it does have to meet, like our building inspectors would require that they have an engineer as part of their project. So that's a different process, and we haven't, I think we've had one person in the county that's converted a shipping container into a house on the North Shore. But that door is not closed to people.
Thank you. And Dennis, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through to Councillor Johnson. I guess a couple points. First of all, there's no amendment in front of council tonight to talk about. So there's any direction, if you want to give it, would have to be after dealing with the land use. We're in the public hearing process, so we'd have to add it to the agenda process. Because there's no amendments coming forward. There's a standstill, so there's no amendment. So it's really, this is because this is a public hearing, we probably should just move it aside. But on the issue of enforcement, it's like a lot of things with the municipality. We can have too dangerous and unsightly properties, and if someone doesn't complain about it, we only deal with the one that they complain about, and council wants something different in a way of enforcement, then it's a direction to the CEO to come back with a policy and operational and budget to say, do we want to shift from complaint driven to incident driven? In terms of the policy is in place because your bylaw is in place. It says you can't have a container in certain areas. And so if your development officer gets a call, there's no discretion. If there's a container in a place where it's not, then the development officer has to issue a letter saying you're against the bylaws. And when they get cooperation, that's great. If they don't, then eventually it comes to us. And we would enforce the bylaw because that's what the bylaw says. So, as I said, if any of your enforcement issues, whether it's dangerous and unsightly, any of the bylaws, those are all complaint driven. The building inspection process is different because that's permitting process, but anything that's not permit required, it's all as the complaints come in, and we don't go looking for them. And if you want that sort of policy, then council would have to operationalize that and ask for advice from the CEO and staff on how to, and what it'll cost.
Thank you. Councillor Benoit, you turned your microphone off. Are you
I'm satisfied.
okay? Councillor Leggett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm on the side of you can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out on this. I've seen in the county newsletter talk about pool fencing heights, minimum requirements for pool fencing heights and other bylaw type things you see in the newsletter by times. And what I don't like about this, okay, neighbor X, neighbor Y get into a spat. I don't like your container. There's a bylaw there that says it's got to go, so I'm going to pick on. I'm mad. That's maybe not the right way to go about it, but there's a lot of them around. If we want to start rounding them up, you come up with a pretty long list pretty quick who's got containers around the neighborhood. But I've yet to see one that's really totally unsightly. My travels, I've seen a lot more unsightly yards and other bylaws that aren't, focused on. So, but it's either black or white or gray. And I wrestle with this one.
All right, thank you, councillor. And as was stated, this is not part of what we're looking at tonight. So I would suggest that if we wish to talk about this, that when we approve our agenda, then we deal with it at that time. We do have the issue here, and we do have a motion that has been moved and seconded on the floor. Is there any further discussion on the motion as it relates to the amendments that we're dealing with in this public hearing? Then are you ready for the question? The question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay? We will be. Then this motion has been approved. The motion has been passed. The adoption of the administrative amendments made jointly to the Municipality of Colchester Municipal Planning Strategy and Land Use Bylaw and identified as List A have been approved and are not appealable to the Nova Scotia Regulatory and Appeals Board. However, Council's decision on these administrative amendments will require the approval of the Minister of Municipal Affairs. Upon approval from the Minister of Municipal Affairs, a notice is published, and the amendments to the Municipal Planning Strategy and Land Use Bylaw are then in force. Those administrative amendments made to the Colchester Land Use Bylaw as identified in List B are appealable to the Nova Scotia Regulatory and Appeals Board. Any appeal of Council's decision must be made within 14 days of the advertising of this decision. That concludes this public hearing, Council, and we shall move on to the approval of our agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? I have, and CAO.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we have two items. One would be item 16B, which is community member recognition brought forward by Councilor Martel. And we have in camera number 22 legal.
Thank you. Are there any further additions or deletions to the agenda? Then, Councilor Martel.
Just for clarity, I had asked a correspondence item, information item be added. It is on the table, just wondering if that is on the agenda.
Yes. When it's on table, it's added automatically. I'm prepared to entertain a motion with regards to the agenda. Moved by Councillor Weatherby, the agenda be accepted as amended, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Do I have any discussion on the motion?
Question.
The question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The motion is carried. The agenda is approved as amended. The next item is the approval of minutes from the meeting held on April 27, 2026. And I'm prepared to entertain motion with regards to those minutes. Moved by Councillor Cooper, the minutes be accepted as presented, seconded by Councillor Johnson. Discussion on the motion? Question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. The motion is carried. Is there any business arising from those minutes? Then we shall move on to the next item on the agenda, and we'll be using our electronic voting from here on. The standing committee reports and recommendations. Deputy Mayor Sanderson, please.
So we're going to have Councillor Richardson's recusing himself from the first item.
Right, and let the record show. Councillor Richardson has recused himself.
So this regarding Hilden Fire Brigade's debt financing. I move that council approves debt financing for the Hilden Fire Brigade's new fire hall through the Provincial Treasury Board with the Hilden Fire Brigade to repay principal and interest annually.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Patton. Discussion on the motion? Are you ready for the question? And your voting is on. And voting is now closed and motion carries unanimously. Councillor Richardson's returning to the table and Deputy Mayor Sanderson, please.
Thank you, Mayor Blair. This is regarding East Mountain Sewer boundary. That council adopts the proposed sewer service boundary for East Mountain along Pictou Road and Highway 4 from Jollytown Road to Mingo Road as presented. Copy of the boundaries attached, as well as a memo attached. So I so move.
And do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Leggett. Discussion on the motion? I'll get you to turn your microphone off. Councillor Martel.
Yeah, a point of order with the last vote, the vote that was on the screen was East Mountain Sewer Boundary. It didn't have the heading on it, Glen Fire Brigade.
Did not notice that.
It's just as it closed, I was like, oh,
Well, we were voting on Hilden and everyone assumed that's what it was. Point of order for that, Dennis, do we need to revote?
Yes.
That's what I figured. Council, you have a motion on the floor with regards to the Hilden Fire Brigade debt financing. Councillor Richardson has recused himself. And the motion was moved by Deputy Mayor Sanderson. It was seconded by Councillor Patton. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Councillor Cooper.
So if I go through to Dennis, please.
Yes,
So what we discussed last council meeting session, that we could exempt certain spots.
We're back to Hilden before we get to that, Council.
yes, we're finishing what we
Okay.
was titled differently. Are you ready for the question with regards to Hilden?
Question.
The question has been called. And there we are, Hilden Fire Brigade debt financing. And you vote, please. Voting is closed. And the motion is passed unanimously. And Councillor Richardson is returning to the table. Now, let's try this again. Do you need to have that read again?
Oh.
East Mountain Sewer Boundary.
You want me to repeat it?
I think perhaps, and Councillor Leggett has already seconded it, but I think for the record,
Okay.
we will, in case there are some
Sure.
challenges
The
on
motion
that.
was the council adopts the proposed sewer service boundary for East Mountain along Pictou Road, Highway 4, from Jollytown Road to Mingo Road as presented.
Thank you, and Councillor Leggett is seconding the motion, and Councillor Cooper, you had a question.
I go through to Dennis, please.
Yes, please.
So on the memo that goes along with this, just want to make sure I'm clear on that. It states that what we talked about before, that we could exempt certain properties from being charged for the sewer boundary charge. Is that saying that we can't do that? Is that what that's saying? So, I guess. So we
Dennis, please.
pass this way, does everybody gets included?
So through you, Madam Chair. So there are two ways of imposing the charge. One is the area rate, which is the way that council has traditionally done the sewer charge. And that the premise of that is if the service is in the area, then it's paid. And under that section and the general rate, there's very limited ways that council has very limited room to exempt anybody from general taxes, if you will, in areas just subset. There is another way of imposing this charge. It's under section 81 of the MGA. That does allow in the bylaw to identify means of exemption. The council does not have a bylaw currently in place because it's always relied on the area rate mechanism. So if you want to exempt properties from that, you'd have to proceed under a different bylaw, which would kick it down the road through creating the bylaw, 2 readings, and put it in place, and then implement a charge process for the area. So it's really a yes, no on the area. If it's yes, everybody's in. And if you don't want that, then you have to vote no. Council would have to give direction to consider how they want to approach that.
Yeah, I'll be voting no, because I really feel that the way it was put in place the first time, it said, this was for a certain reason, and now we're gonna change that reason. The people don't have any really say in that at all, so I'm gonna vote against it.
Any further questions, council? We have discussed this, and the question has been,
Council would like it.
Councillor Leggett, sorry.
One further question to whoever can
Yes.
answer the question.
Yes, of course.
Only properties that are accessible to the sewer line are included in the billing, right? Anybody that can't hook up to the is exempt. Okay, thank you. I think I asked.
Yeah, I'll ask our Director of Public Works, Michelle, please.
Thank you through the chair. So only properties that have access to the sewer line are included in the boundary.
Councillor Leggett. Okay, thank you. You have a motion before you, council. Are you ready for the question? Question has been called and voting is up. Voting is now closed. There are 2 nays, Councillor Cooper and Councillor Patton. Motion carries. Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Mayor. It's number 4, council proceedings and committees policy amendments. I move that council approves amendments to the council proceedings and committees policy be approved as amended.
And do I have a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Weatherby. Discussion on the motion? Councillor Martell.
Thank you. Through the chair, I just want to share that I spoke on this at the last council committee meeting. And I have provided the clerk and CAO with a written suggestion for future amendments that my understanding is will be provided to staff and we will review again in the future.
Yes, that's my understanding as well, Councillor. Any further discussion on the motion? The question has been called. And voting will be on screen. Voting is now closed and the motion carries unanimously. And Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you. The next item is the Rath East Link Community Center Award of RFP Engineering Services. I move that council supports the Recs Board's decision to award the facility condition assessment to East Point Engineering for $40,828.
And do I have a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Richardson. Discussion on the motion?
Question.
The question has been called. Voting is now on screen. Vote is now closed and the motion carries unanimously. And Deputy Mayor,
Thank
please.
you, Mayor. The final item is negotiations, CNSTDS bid to host the 2028 World Women's Curling Championship. I move that council approves that a letter of support be provided for the Central Nova Scotia Tourism Development Society bid to host the 2028 World Women's Curling Championship in Nova Scotia.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Benoit. And discussion on the motion?
Question.
The question has been called. Voting is on screen. Voting is now closed and the motion carries unanimously. The next item on the agenda is a copy of the Flood Advisory Committee minutes from the meeting of May 5, 2026. Any questions on those minutes? They are draft, they are actual minutes, I believe they have been approved. And are we prepared to accept for information? I need a motion, please. Moved by Councillor Leggett, seconded by Councillor Benoit. Any discussion on the motion? The question has been called. Okay, all right. Go back to the old-fashioned way. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded nay. Motion is carried. The next item is for information purposes, the Debert Business Park Advisory Committee minutes of May 5. These are draft minutes and they're here for information. And I'm prepared to entertain a motion. Moved by Councillor Benoit. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Mayor Sanderson, that these be accepted for information. Any discussion on the motion? Any questions with regards to the minutes? The draft minutes?
Question.
Then the question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Reminded nay, motion is carried. The next item is the Audit Committee minutes of May 6th, 2026. And once again, I'm looking for a motion to accept for information. Moved by Deputy Mayor Sanderson, seconded by Councillor Johnson. And any questions, any discussion on the motion? The question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The motion is carried. The minutes of the Audit Committee, May 6, have been accepted for information. The next item is the French River Source Water Protection Committee minutes of May 8, 2026. And I'm prepared to entertain a motion that those moved by Councillor Martel may be accepted for information. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Discussion on the motion?
Questions?
The question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The motion is carried. The French River Source Water Protection Committee minutes are May 8th for information. And the next item is the Planning Advisory Committee report for May 20, 2026 meeting. And I'm prepared to entertain a motion those be accepted for information. Moved by Councillor Weatherby, seconded by Councillor Johnson. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion is carried. The next item, we move into our information items, and the first is newsletter community resource insert request. And I'm going to ask Devin if he would address this, please.
Thank you, Mayor Blair. This request came back in January, actually, earlier this year. And the request was for an insert to be added into our municipal newsletter to highlight some community resources. Oh, sorry, I just totally lost my spot here. I apologize. I had to use my mouse, I'm sorry. Basically resources such as things that would be identified through 211 services, so mental health supports, grief and bereavement support, food and security programs, housing, financial, family, youth, disability, and senior supports, those types of things. Many of these services are offered, provincial responsibilities, of course. The council referred this request to staff to look at the feasibility. So when we looked into this, initially we looked at, currently we have a 12-page municipal newsletter that is done quarterly. We do have a solid waste insert that goes into one of those 4 newsletters, so it doesn't really allow for an additional insert for that particular one, just given the size of that one already. So interestingly, the cost of adding additional pages to the other 3 issues turned out to be not that significant. And the reason we were told through the printing company that currently does our newsletter was that they're set up to be able to do a 16 page newsletter efficiently anyway. So that's kind of their bread and butter apparently. So that's why the additional cost was actually not a major deterrent. I think the current newsletter is around 8,344 to do for the 12 page, and then this, to add the insert was around, would bring it to 9,036. So again, modest change. Although the printing is kind of not only is only a minor increase, sorry, significant consideration is with regard to staff time and putting the additional 4 pages together. There was some concern of the time it would take to fill that those 4 pages. Currently, there is a bit of a challenge in putting together our existing newsletter. So that was one of the concerns expressed by staff. Another concern was the fact that a lot of the content would be related to provincial services. So oftentimes the things that are in our newsletter, when staff get phone calls, they may not be familiar with the content of what we've put in the newsletter. So there was concern that perhaps someone would see that information and contact us, say how can I access this service, and there may be some potential frustration dealing with the public that can't necessarily always provide the answers to those questions. See if I've missed any other key points here. I guess kind of the final point that I've included there is in reviewing the 211 Nova Scotia service, that service is offered provincially. It has for many years, and it actually does exactly what the request was made for us. That role of that whole program is to provide all of the information in a very easy format. Staff actually considered perhaps it would be easier, although not necessarily a financial deterrent, but it may be easier for within the municipal newsletter to simply promote the 211 program a little bit more effectively within the newsletter. Would save the concern of trying to fill 4 extra pages, but perhaps highlighting the various things that you can access through that 211 service. But essentially everything that was asked for to be promoted was exactly what that program exists to do. So that would be staff's recommendation, but you do have a couple options there to consider, either to proceed with pursuing an additional 4 pages, just keeping in mind some of the additional staff resources and financial resources, or we could look at just promoting the 211 service more frequently and consistently in the existing newsletter.
Thank you very much, Devin. I'm prepared to entertain a motion. Councillor Johnson. You've got a question? All right, then I'm prepared to entertain a motion. Deputy Mayor Sanderson.
I move the council direct staff to regularly promote the 211 Nova Scotia service within the current 12-page format of the municipal newsletter.
Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Kenneth. Discussion on the motion? Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Chair, through you to Devin. Devin, I went on to the 211 site and they have rack cards and they have postcard size and fridge magnets and whatnot that you can order. So I'm just wondering if we wouldn't get a supply of those and stick them in with the newsletter to go out as is, and it's its own promotion. And that way it doesn't tie us to fielding questions.
Just to clarify, so you're considering potentially ordering some of the promotional
As an insert.
brochures as an insert. Okay.
I don't know how possible that is, but I just, I know it's available. I just ordered some.
Through Mayor Blair too, just my only question, and this could be a question for the printing process, the inserting process, because I understand we had talked about the potential of a single page insert at one point, and there was some issue with the single page insert falling out and being an issue that way. So that's my only, I think it's a good idea, but I don't know the feasibility of stuffing however many thousand, but a good idea nonetheless.
One more question for Devin.
Certainly.
Just a reminder, while I have you here, about the levels of government and what they do
I thought of
a
that.
year later.
Councillor Benoit.
Thank you, Mayor Blair. I can appreciate the amount of staff time that it would take to do this, and I understand that, and I definitely do not want to add any more to that. I guess it's just a comment. I completely agree with the residents' asks. It is difficult to try to find some things online, and especially seniors have trouble accessing and understanding the whole way social or to find these sites online and stuff. So anything that we can do to help, I think would be wonderful, to work with the province. I know that a lot of these are provincial issues. But if we can help in any way, I mean, mental health has been ongoing, and even if we can include the 211, I think is a great start. I know in the last, I'm going to say 2 months, I feel like our small communities, heard another one today that has lost their life. And so mental health is extremely important right now, and anything that we can do to try to help navigate the system or bring resources, I think is really crucial. Sorry, I had one other point, but anyway, I will go along with the 211, but if there's any, and oh, that's what I was gonna say, sorry. The 211 handbook that they give out as well, I've gotten many of those, and they are great for residents, seniors, just anyone really. There's a lot of information in there, so 211 is great, and if we can add a little note into our newsletters for that, is a great start. But if there's anything else that we are able to do in the future, I think would be wonderful. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Mayor Blair. Guess I got a couple of questions. Road appropriateness, I guess I'd put it under. This is provincial programming. You know, should we or do we have to get some sort of agreement from them as to what we're gonna put out there? Like, are we just allowed to go and start promoting anything the province is doing, and, you know, maybe we want to promote it for one thing. And I think it's more appropriate, I think, to the resident to get a hold of their MLA, and they put out little newsletter things all the time, you know, promote themselves, so they get promoted to it on one other things at the same time. So I think that's the way to go. I don't think this is our mandate, and this is just confusing people, and the MLA is the one, he should, if people wouldn't want to have this information, he should be garnering the glory per se of putting it out there and having people happy to get it, sort of thing. So I disagree with doing this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Benoit.
Thank you. Councillor Cooper makes up a great point. And I wonder if maybe additionally, I still agree with just putting something in there about advocate or promoting 211. I don't think that's going to cause any confusion just to promote it. But maybe we could do one step further and put out a letter to the province asking them their thoughts on them putting something out in the mail on a regular basis, like our newsletters that could promote this stuff so that people would know. So
and that may be where the suggestion, they would put it out through the MLAs. That would be logical move. Any further questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Sanderson.
If this vote, this motion is approved, will somebody go back to the the individual that requested we do this, explaining our rationale. Somebody will go back.
Given there is a request on the floor, there will be a response, or there's a request, there will be a response
Okay.
as to how we have
Good.
dealt with this.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. And Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, through the mayor to Devin. So I don't see the cost as a stumbling block. $700 it isn't worth even, it's not a game breaker here. Staff time, how much staff time would it take to put this together? You mentioned staff time, but before we end this thing, is it hours, is it days, is it weeks, like?
I don't put the newsletter together, so I can't answer that myself. I know that it can be challenging at times to, if in filling, so it could be either, if it were a 4-page thing, it may end up being, once you get it in place, it ends up being either the same content rehashed. So it's just, I think the concern was that would staff have to be seeking out fresh content and changing things up, or is it just something that once it exists, it just is in there consistently? So I think it was a little bit of the uncertainty of not knowing exactly how much time it may take to put together if the content was changing. I think that would take more time. That would probably be the bulk of that issue, but it's the uncertainty of whether the content would have to change and who would be responsible for it.
And I'll ask our
Yeah.
CAO to address that as well, Devin. Thank you.
Thank you through the chair. So I think in addition, and it's actually already been touched on, is that if we're going to be taking a program that doesn't belong to us and advertising it on a third party, referencing it or taking some of their basic material and creating a smaller piece within the newsletter would be a lot more straightforward than trying to create 4 pages, because to get to the 16, you would need to fill those 4 pages, and coordinating that we are representing accurately the information. So there would be more setup time on it. And I think more particular, there'd be a lot more time verifying just in the process. Again, I wouldn't, like Devin, I can't speak to what the time would be, but there would likely be a significant amount of back and forth with the content owners at the end of the day.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson? No? Okay. Then basically, if this motion goes through, it would be clearly identified that this is a provincial program, 211 program, that would be answers for any of the issues with regards to 211 would be through the provincial government and that 211 number, correct? You have a motion on the floor, councillors. Are there any further questions? Are you ready for the question? Question's been called and voting is up. Vote is now closed and we have 1 nay, Councillor Cooper. Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the Glenholme Solar Project, and I'll ask our Economic Development Officer, Jen, if she would address this, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening. There we go. Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, Council. So the item before you tonight is with regard to a request from Natural Forces Solar for a letter of support for their proposed Glenholme Solar Project. I do want to note that when Natural Forces came in to present to Council, I guess it would have been a couple of weeks ago now, the specific ask was to provide letters of support for both the Lower Harmony project and the Glenholme project. So should council want to endorse these letters, we should amend the motion to reflect that. The item this evening is specific to the Glenholme project, just because there's some considerations around capacity and conflict with our own community solar project. So apologies for the not including that in the motion. So as I mentioned, Natural Forces came in to present to council in May and provided some information on their Colchester solar projects. They're now requesting letter of support to accompany their application to the province's community solar program, which would then enable them to seek a 25-year power purchase agreement with Nova Scotia Power. So as they mentioned during their presentation, but just as a reminder, they have a project in Newton Mills, which Colchester has already provided a letter of support for. A proposed project in Glenholme, a proposed project in Lower Harmony, and then the fourth project is out of the county in East Amherst. So the specific project with regards to the Glenholme project is located on 38 acres of land in Glenholme. And it's proposed to include 15,200 solar panels and have a generation capacity of up to 6.3 megawatts. So Nova Scotia Power, Natural Forces, they're a Nova Scotia-based renewable energy company. They specialize in these types of utility scale solar projects, energy storage, and other microgrid projects throughout Atlantic Canada. I think you've received a lot of information on the company, but they have good, background here and have installed more than 90 of these projects to date within the Atlantic provinces and other ones underway and under construction. So the province's community solar program, it's intended to support renewable energy generation projects that provide direct savings to subscribers in communities like ours within a particular catchment area of the project. Both the Natural Forces proposal and with the Glenholme project, and the Municipality of Colchester's ongoing community solar initiative would both serve similar subscriber areas and then also fall within the same catchment areas and provide direct electricity savings to similar households in those catchment areas. So as I mentioned, our community solar program, we received money through the Nova Scotia Low Carbon Communities Program to complete the feasibility study for this project. We received $75,000 and council agreed to match funds towards the initiative. We then retained a company, East Point Engineering Services, to complete the feasibility work. And as of May, we've worked through total contract value through the consulting services of roughly $125,000. And we also have scheduled wetland delineation work, which is anticipated to begin in June at a cost of $12,000. So that just gives you an insight of what we've invested financially. But I do want to note we've also invested staff time as well in this project so far. The study identified a lot in Debert on Dakota Road as a potentially viable site, and council did endorse us doing the feasibility study on this particular lot back in December of 2025. So the preliminary findings of the feasibility study did come back. The site looks favorable with regards to site conditions and available grid hosting capacity. And there's also prior archaeological cleared, it's an archaeological cleared lot. So that allowed us to progress a little bit quicker with the project or with the application. So the supplementary feasibility work is kind of ongoing on the wetland delineation to understand exactly how much of the lot we can use. And this is anticipated to continue through till late summer of 2026. So long and short is that we've received this study from East Point. Project is feasible in theory. There's definitely still some work to do to understand the business case of the project. And that would be, of course, brought back to council before we submitted any type of application to the community solar program. We've also submitted a preliminary application to Nova Scotia Power just to understand the interconnection considerations and available grid capacity. We thought we might have that application back by today, but unfortunately we don't. So just awaiting a better understanding of what's going on in the grid capacity with Nova Scotia Power. So while, we've done quite a bit of work on this project, I do want to note that there is a significant amount of work that still would need to be done before the municipality could submit a formal community solar application. So there's MICMA engagement, EDI planning, environmental review work, and then other types of development activities. So Natural Forces project appears to be much further advanced in project readiness. They kind of gave the lowdown of where they're at, but they've completed a variety of project readiness activities and are ready to submit an application to the province's community solar program in the near term. I'm actually unsure if that's been submitted yet or if it's going to happen very soon, but either way, they're very close. And as I mentioned, both projects would rely on available grid capacity. Both projects would serve to provide a similar community benefit, which is estimated right now at roughly around $200 annually as a subsidy towards your annual power bill for up to 644 homes within the applicable catchment area. And I should say those are our numbers from our feasibility study, but we understand and have been told that natural forces would be very similar. So, you know, there's some pros and cons here of having private sector advance these types of projects versus us as a community-led solar project. We would, of course, any type of revenue that we generate from this type of project, we would be able to reinvest into future climate action initiatives and energy projects or other type of community benefit programs. And then conversely, though, Natural Forces, of course, has, you know, this privately led project where they would assume the development risks, any type of capital, land acquisition requirements, and any type of project delivery responsibilities. So, you know, same community benefit, different, I guess, actions to get there, and different models. So at this stage, we're just really trying to understand if council is comfortable in producing a letter of support, understanding that that could potentially jeopardize our submission to the community solar program, as it would take up, you know, a portion of the grid capacity, and we would potentially not be eligible to apply once we get there. Should council want to move forward with the letters of support, I would note that we would still continue our work. We have the funds through the program, and we're also engaged our consultants to finish the feasibility work. So we continue with our work until we were told otherwise if we were able to proceed with the project or not. So staff is recommending that we do we suggest that council moves forward with submitting these letters of support, understanding Natural Forces has the capability and capacity to provide this community benefit to the project. And I will note that I think they mentioned during their presentation that there's a bit of a economies of scale benefit here too, right? They're producing 4 of these projects in the, I guess, Nova Scotia and our region, and of course that provide a stronger business case towards the community solar project. So happy to answer questions if council has any. That's it. Thank you.
Before I call for the motion to be put on the floor, for clarification, that motion is to change from a letter to letters of support for the Glenholme and Lower Harmony solar projects. Is that correct? Okay, then I'm prepared to entertain a motion before we proceed with our discussion. Councillor Leggett?
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Yes.
The council and direct staff to prepare a letter of support for the Glenholme solar project proposed by Natural Forces, and I guess that also to include, it's not written here, but to include the Lord.
Yes, just as we discussed.
Okay. So for submission to the province Nova Scotia Community Solar Program.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Cooper. Discussion on the motion. Any questions of Jen? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor, through you to Jen. So really, the most important thing I'm reading here is, and I'll read it, as a result, approval of Natural Forces project will directly impact the one on us in Debert. We weren't really too warm with Debert anyway around the table, were we? And I don't know if we voted to proceed, but we didn't vote to shut anything down yet. But I think we spoke about that Debert land is probably better off being developed as property or commercial property as opposed to solar farm. But is there any change on that? Because if we're gonna have a direct impact by saying we're gonna support one, we may want to come back later because we've already discussed it. We've got a feasibility study with some money already thrown at us here to figure that out. I think we should decide at this point, which one of the two we're gonna support, if we're gonna support one at all.
Jen, please. Your microphone.
Sorry, I'm struggling with my microphone tonight. Yeah, so if I recall, the discussion did have some concern with that specific property, primarily because it's zoned residential and there would be a rezoning requirement, and obviously discussions around our limited archaeology inventory land. So I think those are 2 of the primary concerns when council discussed that evening.
Any further questions?
So,
Deputy Mayor Sant? Okay, Councillor Johnson?
so as a follow-up.
Yes.
You never really answered my question. My question was, if we're gonna pick one of the 2, which one are we gonna pick from staff said, or council says, as opposed to supporting one over the other?
I'm going to ask our CAO, please.
So thank you through the chair and the council. So the motion on the floor and the staff recommendation is that a letter of support go for these projects. For the project being discussed tonight.
Bigger.
But Jen referenced it as well.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor Sanderson.
Thank you, Mayor. And in Jen's report, she mentioned there's still some work to be done at our proposed site. So I would probably suggest we hold off doing it, spending any more money until we find out whether Natural Forces is successful in their bid to set one up in Glenholme. Why would we spend if we think we're not going to be successful?
And our CAO, please.
Thank you. So through the chair, as Jen mentioned, there's an assessment piece of work that's coming back that we would have liked to have had for tonight, but we don't. I think that will also help inform some directional decisions as well.
And Jen?
If I may, Madam Chair, I just wanted to note that the $12,000 for the wetland delineation is committed. We've engaged the consultant, so we do have to continue with that work. However, it's useful information regardless. We'll need it for if that land is ever developed. So we'll likely proceed with that work, but then, note that we'll bring back any further information before we proceed.
Thank you. Councillor Benoit.
Thank you, Mayor Blair. Through you to Jen. How far away are we with the feasibility study?
Through the chair, the feasibility study is primarily done. The wetland delineation will feed that study because it will give us an understanding of how much of the land we can use, which then will let you know your power production, because you'll understand how many panels you can put on the piece of land. So it's not really the feasibility study that's is the continuation of work. There's a variety of other types of engagement and work that has to be done that would take some time, primarily the engagement pieces. To be quite honest, I'm not as familiar with the project progression. As you all know, Joanna's been the lead on the project. I'm just presenting tonight, this evening, as has been involved from kind of a land use perspective, and Pam's of course here. Do you have a better understanding of the full timeline, Pam, to complete the project?
We're several months away.
Okay, so my thought was, is this something we'd be able to table until we found out about our study, but it doesn't sound like there's enough time to do that. Am I right in saying that? Like how long or how quickly they need an answer, I guess.
Yeah, through the chair, if I may, so Natural Forces certainly needs an answer tonight, is their ask. And on our end, I don't think there's any harm in continuing with wetland delineation. We'll have some more information from the power purchase, or sorry, the assessment through Nova Scotia Power, and then we'll likely be able to bring some more information back to council on how we're proceeding.
Perfect. And if I may just make one more comment.
Sure.
So when it talks, and I've heard this multiple times with different solar projects, I think it's a great idea. But when it's often said about subscribers, renters, low income and equity deserving populations to participate. I would just like us to be open-minded that while solar gardens are beneficial, middle-class families may not qualify for subsidies or benefits, leaving them to pay higher rates. Policies, I believe, should be considered the needs of all demographic groups to avoid leaving anyone behind, because we've all heard it from the food bank. They're seeing a lot more people coming in those doors that are not just low income. Like, people are struggling these days, the last few years. So I really think we need to, although I completely agree, I'm not saying not help the low income, we need to. I just want to be more open-minded and realize that there are a lot more families out there that are struggling that could benefit for something like this as well. Thank you.
Any further comments, Councillor Lake?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This comment, myself and Councillor Kennedy sit on the Cozy Colchester Committee. Haven't met in how long now?
Long time.
So I'm picking the horse that wants to move forward. Thank you.
Any further comments? We do have a motion on the floor. Is there any closing comment that you wanted to make, Jen, or anything? No? Then Voting will be up in a moment. Voting is now closed and the motion carries unanimously. Thank you, council. The next item on the agenda is the Wind Project's Community Benefit Fund. And Devin, please. And Councillor Richardson is recusing himself. Let the record show, please. And Devin, you're on.
Thank you, Mayor Blair. So in the Truro Heights Community Wind Project and the Truro Millbrook Wind Project were first established, a community benefits fund was created to give back to the communities kind of directly affected, kind of within that area in districts 2 and 3. So in September of 2024, a formalized agreement was established between the proponent of the two wind projects and the Municipality of Colchester to more clearly define how the municipality would be involved in the fund allocations. So last year was kind of the first year that was implemented, the new process. So the funding opportunity was in early May presented to the community through our social media, our website, and through our 2 district councillors who are promoting the opportunity within their communities. It was also determined that there was a total of $46,731.70 available for the fund for allocation. This wasn't promoted prior to seeking the interest in applications from the community. Being most familiar with the communities within their districts, Deputy Mayor Sanderson and Councillor Richardson met with the staff on May 21st to review applications received through the process. Having council representatives, obviously those 2 in particular involved in the process, was consistent with past practice of reviewing the applications. So after thoughtful deliberation, you'll see the following recommendations listed there before you. I won't necessarily go through each one by one unless you'd like me to. You will note, however, there was a few applications that it was decided not to provide any funding, and that was primarily due to the fact that they weren't necessarily directly within the communities impacted by the wind projects, which is, I believe, why the fund was established, essentially for the more direct communities affected. It should also be noted that due to conflict of interest, Councillor Richardson had recused himself for discussions around the Hilden Community Association and Hilden Fire Brigade. The recommendations made by council, they're to be done so in cooperation with the proponent of the wind projects. So upon council's recommendation this evening, those will then be forwarded to the proponent kind of for their final approval and consideration. So you have 2 options. Council could approve the recommendations as presented or consider amending the recommendations. Resource implications. The funds are a percentage of revenue generated from the Truro Heights Community Wind Projects and the Truro Millbrook Wind Project. Therefore, do not come from the municipality's budget. So just point of clarification. I've already made that point, so we'll leave it in your capable hands.
Thank you, Devin. And I'm prepared to entertain a motion with regards to these, to this particular issue. Councillor Benoit.
Make a motion that council approve recommendations for the 2026 Community Benefits Fund as presented.
Thank you. And do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Weatherby. Any discussion on the motion? The question has been called. And voting is on screen for you. The motion is carried. Councillor Richardson is back at the table, and we shall move on to the next item, which is our area rates and budgets 2026-27. I'll ask our Director of Corporate Services, Scott, to address this, please.
Thanks, your worship, and good evening, council. This item is with respect to our area rates for the municipality and setting the proposed rates for fiscal year 26-27. And as you'll recall, last year and at the end of May and other years, we typically take this in for council's approval. A little bit of background. Area rates are specific services provided within geographic boundaries that apply just to those residents within the boundaries. Typically, there are things like streetlights, sewer services, also fire services are another one which we typically see. And on top of those, we also have our waste management flat rate. So with respect to this year's area rate budgets, there were just 8 changes this year. And I will say, when I say just 8, because they're smaller geographical areas that are being serviced, there is potential for more frequent rate changes because there's the costs aren't spread over a larger group of assessment. So it's not unusual to see rate changes year to year. In this case, 8 changes. The first one being the urban service rate going down from 33.5 cents to 33 cents. And that's with respect to the removal of the water extension rate. So for a number of years, there was a half cent as part of that cost for water extension, but we have no anticipated water extension in the near future. So in talks with Public Works, it was agreed that that was not something that was necessary to charge this year. The next 2 are fire rates. Tatamagouche fire rate. The brigade had made a request to increase from 9.5 cents to 10.5 cents. And Valley Kemptown has made a request to increase from 11 cents to 15 cents. I will say that with fire brigades, the process is typically that they go through a ratepayer meeting and then make their recommendation to us of what they'd like to have in place for a rate. And then we collect the funds on their behalf and remit to them. The other rates are mostly changes related to street lighting. Brookfield street light is seeing a decrease from 4 cents to 3 cents per 100. Debert Park, the street lights rate is going down from 5 cents to 4 cents. Masstown street lights are going from 6 cents to 5 cents. Those are all assessment-based rates. But the next one, Belmont, is a fixed rate per household. And so that one actually goes up from $55 per household to $57. And that's primarily a result of charging a flat rate and Nova Scotia Power seeing increases on the electricity bills. The final one is the solid waste collection and disposal fee. And as council was made aware in the past, we did plan to phase in rate increases on that over 3 years. And this should be the 3rd year of that phase in. So last year was a flat rate of $175 per household, and this year goes to $193 per household. And that includes collection costs going from $76.90 to a flat rate of $90. disposal actually decreases from $39.50 to $39. And the compost is increasing from 59 to 64. I will say in that case, landing at 193 on the third year is a bit lower than we originally had anticipated. And a lot of that's due to EPR coming into play. So the collection cost for recycling is now largely being picked up by the extended producer responsibility, and the producers are paying for it. So also attached in the item are the schedules with respect to each individual area rate. I won't go through those in detail unless council want me to. But staff are recommending the changes I discussed, and happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Scott, and I'm prepared to entertain a motion with regards to the area rates. Councillor Kennedy.
I make a motion that the council approves the 26-27 area rate budgets as presented.
Thank you, and do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Richardson. Discussion on the motion? Anyone have any questions of Scott? Councillor Kennedy, did you have a question?
No, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I see no questions. Are you ready for the question?
Question.
Question has been called, and you have your voting on screen. And the motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Scott. The next item on the agenda is the Jockey booster pump for Debert Water Utility, and I shall ask our Director of Public Works, Michelle, to address this, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, Council. The item before you this evening is seeking approval for the purchase of a new booster pump for Debert Water Utility. Just to give a very basic background, there are two water towers in Debert. One of them is tall and produces its own pressure. The other is flat and requires a pump to feed the system. So the flat tower with the pump, that particular pump needs replacement. It's original to when we took over the water utilities, so probably 2 or 3 years old. We had budgeted within the rate to spend $10,000 on this pump, but the price is closer to $25,000 because the amount exceeds the budget. Council staff are seeking approval from council to allow the purchase of the pump at a cost of $24,695 excluding tax. And that would come out of the depreciation reserve for the utility, which sustains itself.
Thank you. Council, I'm prepared to entertain a motion. Councillor Benoit.
Thank you, Mayor Blair. I'll make a motion that council approves the purchase of the new Jockey pump for the Debert Water Utility at a cost of $24,695, excluding HST, to be funded by the utilities depreciation reserve.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Discussion on the motion?
Question.
Question has been called, and your voting is on screen. Voting is closed and the motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Michelle. The next item on the agenda is the East End Salmon River Sea End Overhead Bridge, and Councillor Johnson asked this be added to the agenda. Councillor Johnson, I'm going to ask you to address it, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So you're coming on an anniversary. I believe it's 3 years that this place has been shut down as of the next, I think it was in May. So there's been very little correspondence back and forth. We've reached out to various people over the years. There was a little bit of drill testing done back in the fall, nothing since. So what I'm asking Mayor and Council to do is send a letter out and request where we're at and when we would expect a replacement bridge in the same location. Because it's gone on far too long. And I'm hearing from people every single day about when is it gonna be rebuilt? Well, I'd like something in writing to see what they're gonna say.
Are you prepared to put that in a form of motion, Counselor?
I am. I'd like to make a motion that council, mayor and council write a letter to CN and request on when we may see a replacement bridge put in the same location as before.
Thank you. And do I have a seconder? Seconded by Counselor Benoit. And basically, we're looking for a letter to go to CN asking for the status of the current project and when we can expect a response. Dennis?
Madam Mayor, I believe the last letter that went was signed by both mayors. I don't know if that's what.
That's correct. I do remember that,
If
yes.
you wanted to contemplate that in the motion, Councillor, but what I
That's
recall
logical.
drafting had both names on it.
Because we're in both the county and the town. Which,
It is, but I've been told several times that it's in the county, so I don't care who sends a letter, but I'd like it signed by somebody. And if you want me to change the motion, to include Truro, mayor and council, I'll certainly do that, but I just want a letter sent to CN.
thoughts?
I was just pointing out that that's what it came
Yes.
last time, so.
Which would you prefer?
I think, sorry, through the chair, so if the previous correspondence hadn't been the case, then I'm sure that if Colchester agrees to sign a letter, I'm sure Truro will as well.
So basically, we could say, following the process of previous correspondence.
Sure. Just get me a letter
All right, then the motion would be that a letter based on previous correspondence, written requesting status, current status on the, yes?
And second, by Councillor Benoit, she agreed.
Yes, I will ask. Yeah, based on the current status of the situation and where we are. Words to that effect. Councillor Benoit, do you agree with that as the seconder?
Yeah, I'm all
Further?
for that, just want to know.
You just want the letter and you
Right.
want to know where we stand.
Yeah.
Understood.
And I don't want something back like they sent us last time.
Oh, well, I can't determine what they're going to send you
No, I
back,
know,
but we can certainly,
Let's,
we can ask the questions, no
let's
problem
be a
there.
little stiffer with our questions this time.
All right, we'll draft something with that's without a doubt what we're looking for, put it that way. Right? Any questions or comments? And are you ready for the question? The question has been called and your voting is on screen. And the motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Councillor. The next item on the agenda is correspondence, and the first is action correspondence. The first message is an email correspondence from Colin Kent, Cobequid Fire, requesting a letter of support for a provincial permit for variance and or a variance on boundary for an addition to their existing fire hall on lands regulated under the Lower Truro Marsh Body Land Use Regulations. And he's looking for a letter of support. Do you want to address this, please?
Thank you, so through the chair. So the reason that the request is that this is outside of our control. So this is where you have a act with regards to a marsh body. It's the province who will have to determine if a variance can occur. And so simply at this time, in order to try and gain some momentum, the request was made if the municipality would in fact write a letter supporting those efforts.
Thank you. And I'm prepared to entertain a motion. Deputy Mayor Sanderson.
I would move that we provide a letter of support for the Cobequid Fire Brigade in their efforts to work with the marsh body. I'm not sure how to word that, but in their efforts to gain a variance. Problem.
Okay, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Cooper. Discussion on the motion? I see none. Are we ready for the question?
Questions?
Question has been called. And your voting was on screen. Vote is closed and the motion carries unanimously. The next item is an email that was sent to me dated May 25th from Alan Wellwood, Valley residents, expressing concerns regarding a recent relocation of Canada Post Group mailbox in the Valley area. And his request was that a letter go to Canada Post because when the change of you can see it in the correspondence there that you have, when the mailbox is removed, it created a dangerous situation. I'm prepared to entertain a motion. And a letter go?
Could I like to speak on it?
Yes. It's been moved by Councillor Leggett that a letter be prepared for Canada Post, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. And Councillor Leggett, you wish to address this?
Thanks, Madam Chair. This was Friday's firestorm in Valley. And there was no pre-warning by notice by Canada Post, and the only reason I had several phone calls from different people. Where's our mailbox gone? Damn, do I know? But our fire hall actually gets our mail through the same address of Valley Variety. And what had happened was they just basically arbitrarily came down on Thursday afternoon or Friday morning and took the mailboxes down the road to a car repair shop at the corner of Valley Crossroads and Pictou Road, Summer Road and Pictou Road. But our treasurer actually called Canada Post on Friday morning and was given a ticket number that they would call them by this Thursday, being today, to tell them where the new mailbox was.
After it had been moved?
After it had been moved, yeah. And I said I was torturing some people who I know better than others about their mail. I said, well, maybe the new address is still inside the mailbox if you had checked it. Anyways, I thought I had screenshot it, but there was a message came in the mailbox on Monday at the new location that we will be advised in due course where the new mailbox is going to be. Apparently it's not at this location either. So we're sitting with, anticipation as to where this mailbox is actually going to end up before it's all said and done. So they don't know. It's just, it's bizarre. So anyways, yes, I totally agree with sending the letter, but I don't know what they're going to do about it. Because I think it's about, there's 3 boxes and there's 12 in each one. So that's 36 or 40 addresses that had no idea where their mail had gone to. And obviously somewhere down the road, we're going to get some other correspondence through the mailbox to tell them where to go hunt for your mail next time around. So pretty unprofessional, but that's the Coles News version of Friday afternoon in Valley.
Thank you. Any further comments? Then are you ready for the question? Question has been called. And your voting is on screen. The vote is closed and the motion carries unanimously. A letter will go to Canada Post expressing concerns over the safety of the situation as it currently exists.
So the mail box with that now.
I think that it would probably go by email. Is that ironic?
Yeah.
Yeah. The next item on the agenda is moving into our information correspondence. And the first 2 pieces of information correspondence are the development activity report for April 2026 from our development officer and the copy of the building permit statistics for April 2026 from our building inspector. And I'd like to entertain a motion that those be accepted for information by Councillor Weatherby. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Benoit. Any discussion on those? Any questions with regards to either of the reports? They're always detailed, they're always full of information. Councillor Leggett, did you have a question? Okay, then are you ready for the question?
Question.
Question has been called. Your voting is online, on screen. Vote is closed and the motion carries unanimously. The next item is a letter from the Honorable John A. MacDonald, Municipal Affairs Minister, dated May 4, 2026, concerning the 12 months notice with regards to provincial legislation, regulation, or administrative actions that could impact revenues or expenditures of municipalities. And I'm looking for a motion to receive for information. Moved by Councillor Patton, seconded by Councillor Richardson. Any discussion on that motion? This is just something that the provincial government does on a regular basis to keep us informed of future possibilities as they relate to the municipalities. Are you ready for the question? Question's been called and voting is on screen. And the voting carries, motion carries unanimously. The next item is a letter to Mayor and Council from Carolyn Vanden Heuvel, Executive Director of the Nova Scotia Federation of Agriculture. My apologies if I mispronounced her name, expressing concern regarding the recent municipal decision to end the management arrangement for the Nova Scotia Exhibition Grounds. I'm prepared to entertain a motion with regards to that. Councillor Martel.
Thank you. I would motion that council invite the Nova Scotia Federation of Agriculture to a presentation night to hear directly from them on the impacts of the severing of contracts between the Central Nova Scotia Civic Center Society and the owners of the provincial exhibition grounds in an effort to work collaboratively with them on solutions to support the agriculture industry here in the future. And I would like to speak to that.
Certainly.
I'll second that.
Of course. Moved by Councillor Martel, seconded by Councillor Patton. Discussion.
So certainly,
Councillor Martel.
certainly a letter like this from a provincial body representing so many members of the agricultural community shared an insightful look into some of the results of decisions that have been made in regards to the management of the Nova Scotia exhibition grounds. And while I clearly recognize that those contracts to manage these grounds sat with the Central Nova Scotia Civic Center Society and its board of directors, there's no question that the municipality has played a role in unwinding those contracts that were in place there. The results of these actions have had broad impacts that are felt in the community in a variety of ways that have been captured in this letter, as well as conversations out in the community. Some of those concerns, such as the agriculture organizations not being able to plan events with confidence, and activities such as career expos, industry shows, and programming delivered by organizations such as 4-H are being disrupted and put at risk. And this letter also expresses that without stability, these events and activities will be reduced or relocated. And we all know from experience in our own lives that when events leave a community, it's often rare that they would return. And I have to agree with the sentiment from Executive Director Carolyn Vanden Heuvel that this represents a direct loss to the Truro and Colchester region, and it does impact our local economy. I had an opportunity to speak with Ms. Vanden Heuvel, and she expressed an openness to bring the voice of the agriculture community to our table to work on constructive paths forward, while also expecting the municipalities to acknowledge that there have been impacts of this decision. And while we've heard from her in this letter, we've also heard from the Farm Museum. We've heard from the 4-H. And I understand that there are sweeping impacts on the harness racing activity as well there. And while I fully support strong communication and dialogue with our agriculture sector, I feel it is our responsibility to engage in meaningful dialogue with them as we move forward as a community. Agriculture is one of the key economic drivers in this county. And to me, it is exceptionally important that we are continuously engaging with them and that industry together on solutions to promote the quality of life in this region, support food security, and the importance of agriculture to our local economies. So I ask you to support my motion.
Any comments, any further questions or comments, council? I think that we all fully recognize the value of agriculture to Colchester County and that we have always had a good working relationship with that department. Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to echo Councillor Martel's comments. It's very important, not only for the agricultural industry, but for any industry, any stakeholder in this community. We need to hear from them anytime there's a major event or something affected a property that is right here in the county. So I just wanted to tell Councillor Martel, good for you for speaking up.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Sanderson.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with Councillor Martel in that, yes, dialogue is so very important with our agricultural friends. But we have to keep in mind that the exhibition grounds are not ours. It's owned by the province, and I wonder if it might be more effective if the Federation of Agriculture and 4-H and museum and raceway all got together and presented to the province. Obviously, the county supports, as Mayor Blair said, we've supported Colchester 4-H for many, many years. When we're asked to support events, we're generally there to support events, but it is kind of out of our jurisdiction. I understand that when the eviction letters were sent, it was sent on behalf of the province by the Rec Society. So the society was asked to send those letters by the province. So that seems rather strange to me, but that's the way it unfolded. So I just think there might be a better opportunity to move the needle on support for agriculture and 4-H by talking to the province, because that facility is a gem in our community.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And the province has spent a pile of money there. So the province needs to assure the tenants that they have that they will be there for the long term, and they need to hear that from the province, I think. So just my thought on the potential presentation.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further comments? Councillor Benoit.
Thank you, Mayor Blair. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. To be honest, I was a little confused in regards to the 4-H and to the Farm Museum, because before we went over there, they had been there long before we had gone over. So I'm still quite confused as to when the letters did go out, why we were sending the letters. But if the province asked for them, the letters to be sent, I don't even understand that. And maybe somebody can clarify. But I would think after we left there, okay, I'm gonna back up a little bit. So when we went into the exhibition grounds, the provincial grounds, my understanding was it was to manage events, and that's what we were doing. I didn't think it had anything to do or would affect 4-H or the Farm Museum. I thought that was completely separate. So then the letters went out, and I would have thought that even if we did after the letters, after we had left the area, that 4-H and the museum would continue as they always did. So I'm still pretty baffled on that. I don't understand why we ended up involved in that. So if somebody can or explain that to me, I would appreciate it. And I think a lot of community members are confused by this as well. My other part is, in reading this letter, I'm open to talk or have open conversations with Department of Agriculture, as everybody else agrees. I think it's very important that we should have had communication with them as well. But I would like to see the province step in, and I feel like there's a lot of back and forth. There's so many people confused. I get asked about this on a regular basis, like, and it's just still such a mess. Like, I understand our priority is to take care of the wreck and bring that back to where it's needed to be. I wish there was more public information put out, because I feel like, I know there's some things that we're not able to say, which I don't completely agree with, but that's how politics are. But I think it would definitely help people understand a little bit more as to what's going on. But anyway, as far as the farm museum and the 4-H, if somebody can explain that to me, because it makes absolutely no sense as to why we had to step in there, give eviction notices. If it was the province telling us to do it, why is the province telling us to send eviction notices to these two very important groups? And anyway, I'll stop there. I totally back it. If you can explain it, would be great.
And I'll ask Dan to address this, please.
So thank you through the chair to council, I guess. So when the contract was signed, where the exhibition ground was now going to be managed by the society, all of the leases were now the responsibility of the society. So the province owns the land, but essentially all of the management and all the operation of the leases are that of the society. So notice was given, and there was plenty of discussion with the province with regards to how to proceed. The leases, we stayed in an overhold position, which means they continued until the province was able to complete their budget and make a number of decisions. And at the end of that, the unwinding of this, we got a letter from the province that was very explicit as to what we need to do. And so the letters that went out were ending that relationship between the society and those leases, but very specifically in that letter, it said you need to be talking to the farm loan board essentially to establish the go forward position. Essentially during that time period while we were in overhold, there was the province was having dialogue, or I am told the province was having dialogue with 3 of the entities. And there was other dialogue that was happening essentially between the society and the raceway, because the raceway essentially is a commercial entity trying to figure out on how they were going to go forward. There was a lot of discussions around that. So the reason for the letter was specifically that the relationship that got created from that contract is that when it was done, we were explicitly told by the province, this is the way in which the leases are to end and the property is to be handed back. But we also understood there was dialogue happening behind the scenes, but again, that was not part of us. That was a discussion between the farm loan board and those individuals with the long-term lease. So it was very specific instruction as to how this was to wind down. And it was all created because when that contract was signed and the operation of the exhibition grounds was now with the society because of that contract, that the leases were then handed over to be managed by the society. And so in the winding up of this, those leases essentially need to be noticed that that was no longer the case.
Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to mention, I was involved in both of those 99-year leases for the 4-H and the Farm Equipment Museum. At no point has either of those leases ever been changed hands. to the rec board, rec society or anything. Nothing has ever changed for those leases. So I too was quite surprised by these letters going out. And actually, as a volunteer at the Farm Equipment Museum, we had a phone call just prior to the letter being delivered to say, this is coming, we don't know why, ignore it.
Councillor Martel.
Through you to the CIO, I know in this conversation, the words we and us are being thrown around synonymously, and I do feel strongly there needs to be a boundary, a line that says like the we that sent out the letters, never, like that is not council. Council did not send letters. As far as I understand, I only know of the letters because of what I saw on Facebook. And the us is also not council. Us would be the society. So I think it's really important when we're having conversations that the gray area between the connection of both the groups as council members are on the society, but the actions of the society as an independent body, as I should understand it, to the CIO, that the we and the us, these actions were done by the society and not as council.
Dennis, please.
When the two agreements were signed by the CEO of the society, all the leases were signed from the Farm Loan Board to the society. And the letter to the society directed the society to terminate the lease and gave the direction on how that's to be done. The letters were drafted explaining that it's essentially that the province had an option of simply reversing the assignment and taking responsibility, and the contact name was provided. And the tenants were told that as of the end of the month, the society had no responsibility. But the letter that came from the Farm Loan Board was very directive as to the steps that they were asking the society to take. I agree. The Farm Loan Board could have said, don't worry about that. We'll just take back the assignment. You waive your rights under the assignment. Tenants didn't need to know about it. That's not the direction that was given.
Councillor Benoit.
Okay, so sorry, I shut my mic off earlier by mistake. So then for clarification, when we took over all the leases, including 4-H, Farm Loan Board, everything. And then the province gave us direction, or the Farm Loan Board gave us direction that we had to cancel all those leases and give notification to the Farm Loan or to 4-H and such. And then, but we didn't necessarily have to do that. It could have went back to the way it was without any of this. And you big that word, you know, like causing all this hoopla that didn't need to happen. So I wonder if maybe in the future, would it be beneficial? Like all I see in this whole mess is that we need everyone needs to work more together. There needs to be more open communication. And would it make more sense to be having more conversations? I don't know what's happening, if there already is conversations. I'm sure there is. I know, Dan, you spoke on speaking to different people and things, but I just would like to see the province members, us as a municipality, the society, like us all work together and maybe have more open conversations. So therefore we can ask the questions, because even the first term of the society, I'll be honest, back then, I had no idea. I just took it as we had members on that board and they were doing what we thought they needed to do and everything was good. Now this second term, I've taken more notification into what's happening. Anyway, I'd just like to see a lot more communication, open communication. Maybe us as council meet with the province, meet with the Farm Loan Board. I don't know how it works, but I know that we're making changes. I hope that we're making more positive changes, but I feel like there's still more work that we could be doing together with members to try to fix this mess. Thanks.
Counselor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is something that anybody that sits on the rec board would have known. We were instructed by the Farm Loan Board, call them the province, call them what you want, to do exactly what we did. Send eviction notices, and they said that, send eviction notices, break the subleases. They chose to do that. They didn't have to. We questioned them. Why do you want us to do that? Don't know. It's almost like they were trying to jab us at the same time. They could have easily contacted the 4 subtenants over there, and there was 4, and the racetrack. There was a kinsman that we haven't mentioned here tonight. And we sent out, and I signed them, and I questioned why. And once I read the letter from the Farm Loan Board, that's what they're asking us to do. They must have a reason for it. That's what we did. Now you know.
Thank you, Counselor. Any further discussion or questions? I know that there are ongoing discussions with our management, with the Farm Loan Board, with the Department of Agriculture. I had an amazing conversation with the new executive director of 4-H last week, and how our council has always supported 4-H and is always prepared to do that and work cooperatively with them, especially since they have been, the local Colchester 4-H has been asked to put on, to work with the exhibition for this year. And provincial 4-H is going to be working with them on that. This is something that, and as I said, I had looking forward to continuing our support of various organizations. We have stated clearly that we are prepared to work with the exhibition. We are prepared to work with events if they happen to be on for the provincial exhibition grounds, but we are not prepared to manage those grounds. That is not our responsibility as a municipality. And of course, the rec is our facility, jointly owned with the town of Truro, and that has to be our priority. The society of the rec is a creature of the municipality, specifically designated to manage that facility, to operate that facility. Now you do have a motion on the floor. If there are no further questions. I'm sorry, Councillor Benoit.
Sorry, just for
Final.
clarity, what is the motion? Can you reread the motion again? Sorry.
Do you want to read that, Councillor Martel, since you have it all written down there?
I motion the council invite the Nova Scotia Federation of Agriculture to a presentation night to hear directly from them on the impacts of the severing of contracts between the Central Nova Scotia Civic Centre Society and the Nova Scotia Provincial Exhibition Ground, the owners of the Nova Scotia Provincial Exhibition Grounds, in an effort to work collaboratively with them on solutions to support agriculture industry here in the future.
Are you ready for the question? Question has been called. And we're on screen. Motion carries. Do you have a list of those who have voted no? The next item on the agenda is a letter to the mayor and councillors dated May 13, 2025, raising concerns on matters that related to the oversight of council and the operation of the Central Nova Scotia Civic Centre Society, and the suggested is that this be received for information. I'm prepared to entertain a motion. Councillor Martel.
Thank you. I would like to make a motion to speak to it, and I motion that a joint council meeting between the municipality of the county of Colchester and the town of Truro be held as soon as possible to provide an appropriate forum to ask questions of the society board and receive pertinent updates.
Thank you, Counselor. That's already in the making. Moved by Counselor Martell, seconded by Counselor Patton. We are also right now in the process of looking for dates for a joint council meeting. That's something that we do on a regular basis. So we will be setting a date for on a regular as needed basis. And that's something that we will be setting. So you're putting a motion on the floor to that effect.
I am.
And it has been moved and seconded, and you want to address it.
I do.
Counselor Martell.
Thank you, and I understand that joint council meetings happen from time to time, but I wouldn't have been privy to know that that was in the works, so I put the motion forward tonight to ask for that as my privilege to do so on council.
Of course.
So, in the letter which you all have, Mr. Lake makes the point that the operating agreement between the society and the two municipalities was rewritten with the understanding that it was strengthening governance. And this council voted to support that operating agreement in January, now just over 4 months ago, and put it into force. And the society, which is an entirely separate entity from council with its own bylaws and its own governance, continues to be in breach of the operating agreement by not presenting a budget to council, and no meeting has been scheduled yet to present it. And further, within that same operating agreement that we approved here at council, it very clearly states that an AGM must be called within 90 days of the end of the fiscal year, which was March 31st, and that 30 days notice must be given prior to the AGM. So if the AGM is not called by May 31st, 3 days from now, and held by June 30th, the society will be again in breach of the agreement. So during my brief time on the rec board, I sat on the governance committee and I was a director. And I worked with a tremendous group of people who were doing what they were asked to do on a timeline that was a challenge from the very beginning. And I gave the same care and due diligence in my duties serving on that board that I do in ensuring every policy is followed at the council table. And following policy builds trust and maintains order while setting expectations for transparency. And as a counselor, I feel that council should be given an opportunity to speak with the society at this time and ask questions in a correct forum, not here at the council table. It's far past time that we be given adequate updates instead of relying on rumors in the community and what we're seeing on social media. And I feel that we need to have that opportunity to have our questions answered very soon.
Thank you. You have a motion on the floor, Counselor. Is there any further discussion? And please bear in mind that we are working on a joint council meeting. Counselor Cooper, yes, no?
So I'm just confused then. We're working on one, we're gonna do one, or what's, I don't understand, but.
Well, Counselor Martell has put a motion on the floor that we do what we're already doing. Basically get a joint meeting of the two councils. Yeah. So,
You're on again.
okay, any further comments? Ready for the question? And you have an open vote. Thank you. And we'll move on to the addendum for information, and we have an email from Mr. Lake to the mayor and councillors regarding the Central Nova Scotia Civic Centre Society draft minutes. And Councillor Martell.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion that council write a letter to the Central Nova Scotia Civic Center Society and ask them to approve the minutes from October 20th, November 3rd, and November 17th, according to the Roberts Rules of Order that allow for that to be done with a new board.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Patton. And discussion on the motion? And Councillor Martell.
Thank you. I think it's important when we receive letters like this that we do take a look at them from the perspective of how our community views the actions of council and the information that is being shared in public forums with regards to minutes of the society from October 20th, November 3rd, and further November 17th. And I can say with certainty that I was present at all of those meetings. And there are strong ties between our council and the society, especially under the current new structure. I was asked at the November 17th meeting, I was asked to approve the draft meeting. I asked to approve draft minutes from November 20th and November 3rd. And I was told that the newly elected chair needed time to review them with legal. And at the time, I accepted that. But I'm uncertain as to why 6 to 7 months later, they have not come back to the society board to be approved in accordance with Robert's rules that allows for a newly elected board to approve minutes from previous boards, even if none of them were present. But I can say with certainty that there are board members that are still serving that were present at those meetings. And it's not the first time in history that this has happened, where a board was removed, but the society itself remains intact. So minutes must be approved, and there are guiding principles to address this type of situation. And please.
I mean, motion here is that a letter be written to the board, which certainly is within the purview of council to do. I also know that, there have been, multiple opportunities, with, the board to have some discussions, but again, that's a board decision to approve those based on, whatever advice they get. So, I mean, certainly council can write a letter to the board asking for that consideration.
Any further questions or discussion? Question has been called. Motion carries. And the next item is information on our deer study, and Devin has given us quite a lengthy document here to talk along with the report on the study for 2020 surveys for 2026. From Mark Pulsiver, who is the person who did the study. Are there any questions on the deer study? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Devin. Are we looking at doing a cull here in the fall of this year in the county of Colchester? I know we could waive the pellet counts, which we spoke about that before here at council, but are we gearing up for a cull in the county for this season?
Devin, please.
I would say not, haven't been directed to do so, but we are continuing to converse with the Department of Natural Resources to find out the steps to that. As you noted in the information package, last time we reached out to them, and that's actually why I included pretty much the entire response that I got, was that there's a number of steps that will be required of us. Those steps were at that time, that was back last summer, they were in the process of being made official. I believe there was some staff changes there, or someone that stepped away from their position, then recently returned. So when I connected with them in April of this year again to say, are these the official, is this the official process? Has it been fully approved? And I was told that it's pending any day now. And that I would be informed of when that process would be official. So I'm still waiting to hear back. I'm going to reach out to them again. Obviously, I'll forward the survey and kind of follow up with them. But I think if it were council's will to continue to investigate that path, we can find out the process and the timelines and whatnot.
Councillor Johnson.
As a follow-up, Mayor, through you to Devin. I know we've received a letter back when we questioned before here at council, and they basically streamlined us and said we don't need to do 3 years of pellet counts to tell us we got a deer problem in the county.
Oh.
So I think we're here. So this is the end of May. we've already had two groups reach out to do a hunt for us. I transfer those on to the CAO. I think that whatever we have to do, I don't know what they're gonna tell us, but I think we should tell them that we should do a count call this fall, and if we can make that happen, let's make it happen. But, if we sit and wait, we know what the province is gonna do. We'll be sitting here this time next year talking about the same thing and talking about pellet counts, but, I'd like to see us, we included in the last go around when we had an election, and we put it in the areas that we questioned, and I think they're all favorable when they come back, so I don't know what the province is sitting back doing, but I would suggest that we contact them and tell them we'd like to get the proceeds started for this year and do on the phone.
Any further comments, Devin? No, okay. All right, thank you. Any further questions with regards to the deer study? Thank you. And the next item is community member recognition. Councillor Martelli.
Thank you. And through the mayor, I would like to acknowledge two visionary business leaders from our community that have businesses operating in the Truro and Colchester area on receiving a very prestigious award, which was presented at a ceremony on May 7th. These two individuals were recognized by Atlantic Business Magazine and named in its top 50 CEOs in Atlantic Canada during a celebration held in Moncton. And I would like to recognize Dr. Ernest Asante Karenki, President and CEO of Asante Logistics Group, Verfa Agri-Food Innovations Inc., and Aquaba Developments Inc. in Truro, and Stephanie Jones of Jones Group of Companies that were named for this prestigious group. They have built a legacy on leadership, impact, and excellence in their community while giving generously back. And I would like to congratulate both of them on their achievements, and we're very fortunate to have their leadership in our community.
Thank you, Councillor. That's very gracious of you, and I know that we always appreciate our business people in the community, and this council has always been supportive of our business community, as you would know from your previous line of work. So thank you for that. And council, I'm sure, appreciates those comments. The next item is reports from council members. And you have your council reports there. Are there any questions of any of your councillor reports? Any questions of any of the councillor reports? Again, a busy time for council, and see no questions. Before we go into closed session, I do want to recognize Paul Smith. Paul is our Director of Community Development. He has worked with the Municipality of Colchester for 35 years. We had a nice social at lunchtime today, and I was pleased to see the councillors that were able to be here attend. And also we had a great group of staff and people. It was very casual, and it was lovely. Paul's expertise has been appreciated by all of us over the years, and I can't tell you how much we have appreciated his professionalism, and wish him well in his future endeavors. So Paul, thank you. I also want to mention that our Federation of Canadian Municipalities annual conference is being held next week. And those councillors that are traveling there, safe travels, and we look forward to seeing you at the conference. So I'm now prepared to entertain a motion that we go into closed session. Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Fletcher. We are now in closed session. And thank you.